Under the bright lights of the Kaseya Center in Miami, the crowd rose in applause as former President Donald Trump took the stage. The atmosphere felt less like a business forum and more like a campaign rally, charged, loud, and unmistakably political. Trump, standing behind the podium, adorned with the presidential seal, adjusted the microphone, smiled at the cameras, and began his address with a tone that blended pride and defiance. He reminded the audience of what he called a moment of restoration for the American people. On the 5th of November 2024, he said, pausing for emphasis, the American people took back control of our government. We restored our sovereignty. The crowd cheered. He waited, then leaned forward slightly and added, we lost a little bit of sovereignty last night in New York, but we'll take care of it. Don't worry. His words drew immediate headlines and gasps across political circles. The remark was a direct reference to the stunning victory of Zohran Mamdani, a self-proclaimed socialist who had just been elected mayor of New York City. The result, widely unexpected, represented a seismic shift in local politics and, for Trump, an ideological threat in one of America's most visible cities. We're going to take care of it, he repeated later in the speech, his voice sharpening as he spoke to an audience filled with corporate leaders and Republican donors. Don't worry, he added again, as if to reassure them that his grip on America's political direction was far from fading. Outside the arena, the Florida night was thick with humidity and anticipation. Reporters rushed to file stories, analysts debated what take care of it could mean, and within hours, political opponents accused Trump of using authoritarian language against a democratically elected city leader. But for Trump supporters, it was classic Trump, a promise of control, wrapped in the language of confidence and defiance. The election of Mamdani, a three-year-old New York state legislator of Ugandan Indian descent, was itself a political earthquake. His campaign, built around social housing, public banking, and police reform, drew national attention. For many New Yorkers disillusioned by years of rising rents and corporate influence, Mamdani represented a rebellion against both major parties. For Trump, however, his win symbolized a challenge not just to conservative ideology, but to the political order he envisioned for post-Trump America. As Trump continued his remarks in Miami, he painted the U.S. political landscape as a battle between what he called American sovereignty and socialist control. His speech ranged widely, touching on trade, taxes, immigration, and what he described as a new wave of radical city governments taking shape across the country. They're trying to rewrite America from the inside out, he declared, but we're not going to let that happen. His audience, made up largely of business executives, investors, and party donors, nodded in agreement. Many of them had long supported Trump's push for deregulation and tax reform, and they saw his Miami appearance as a preview of a possible re-election campaign platform. We are bringing business back, Trump said, pounding the podium lightly. We're going to make sure cities like New York, San Francisco, and Chicago don't destroy the American dream. Mamdani, speaking from New York hours later, responded to Trump's comments with a composed but pointed statement. New York belongs to its people, not to billionaires, not to corporations, and not to Washington, he said. We will take care of ourselves. His words underscored the ideological divide between the two men, one representing populist capitalism, the other democratic socialism, each claiming to defend the people against a corrupt establishment. Political observers saw Trump's Miami remarks as a strategic opening shot for the coming midterms. With control of Congress at stake and major gubernatorial races looming, Trump's focus on New York was a symbolic warning that even in liberal strongholds, he intended to compete for influence. In private, advisors close to the former president described his tone as calculated defiance, meant to remind both allies and enemies that he remained a force in American politics. As the speech went on, Trump turned from domestic issues to his familiar themes of foreign trade, border control, and energy independence. He spoke about the danger of weakness, accusing the current administration of letting socialist ideas seep into American governance. He claimed that foreign influence was helping fuel radical city movements, a charge critics dismissed as baseless, but one that played well with his audience. "We built the greatest economy in history," Trump said, his voice rising. "We can do it again, but not if we let cities fall into chaos." His words drew another standing ovation. He smiled, then added, "New York used to be our crown jewel. We'll get it back." As he exited the stage, photographers captured the moment, Trump waving, the crowd chanting, his entourage moving quickly toward the waiting motorcade. The speech had lasted just under an hour, but its reverberations spread instantly across the political map. Social media erupted. Supporters shared clips of his "We'll take care of it" remark, with hashtags celebrating his leadership, while opponents circulated memes warning of presidential interference in city politics. Cable networks ran the footage on loop. Analysts debated the legal and moral boundaries of Trump's statement. Was it a threat, a campaign promise, or simply a rhetorical flourish meant to energize his base? One commentator on CNN noted that Trump's phrasing, "We lost a little bit of sovereignty last night," suggested a deeper narrative that he viewed local political outcomes as part of a national struggle for control. In New York, Mamdani's supporters gathered outside City Hall to celebrate his historic win. Chants of people over profit echoed through the streets, while in conservative circles, alarm bells rang. Right-wing columnists accused Mamdani of wanting to turn New York into Caracas, while progressive voices celebrated his victory as the dawn of a new era in city politics. Between those competing visions stood Trump's Miami speech, a clear attempt to define the next political battlefield. Over the following days, reactions continued to ripple through Washington and Wall Street alike. Business leaders wondered whether Trump's tone signaled another push against progressive urban policies. Some donors reportedly discussed increasing funding for conservative candidates in local elections, viewing New York as a test case for ideological endurance. At the same time, Mamdani's office announced a People's Recovery Initiative focused on affordable housing and municipal banking policies that directly challenged the corporate agenda Trump had long defended. Internationally, the remarks were also noticed. Foreign media outlets described Trump's comments as unusually confrontational, with European analysts interpreting them as a sign of renewed populist assertiveness. In London, The Guardian wrote that Trump appears to view urban socialism as a national security threat, while Le Monde in Paris called it a preview of a global ideological clash between market nationalism and municipal socialism. As days passed, the political temperature only rose. In a televised interview, Trump's spokesperson Sarah Huckabee Sanders clarified that the president meant New York will be taken care of by policies that protect American sovereignty and business freedom. But critics weren't convinced. Democratic senators accused Trump of threatening local democracy, while allies dismissed the outrage as media hysteria. Meanwhile, on conservative talk shows, Trump's remarks were replayed alongside images of Mamdani addressing cheering crowds in Queens. "This is what we're up against," one host said. "Socialism on our shores." The contrast became a talking point for weeks. New York as a symbol of progressive ambition, Miami as the heart of Trump's capitalist resistance. Political strategists noted that Trump's Miami appearance was part of a broader pattern, reclaiming symbolic battlegrounds ahead of 2026. His recent visits to Detroit, Atlanta, and Phoenix had followed similar scripts, a mix of nostalgia, grievance, and triumphalism. But the New York comment stood out, precisely because it tied a local victory to a national struggle. He's not just talking about New York. One analyst observed, he's talking about who gets to define America's future. In that sense, Trump's "we'll take care of it" became more than a throwaway line. It became a declaration of political intent. His team quietly launched new digital ads targeting urban voters, arguing that socialist policies destroy opportunity. At the same time, Mamdani's camp doubled down on its message of community-driven governance, releasing a statement that read, "We're not afraid of the powerful. We serve the people who built this city." The clash between these two figures, one a former president seeking redemption, the other a young mayor representing change, crystallized the deep ideological rift. running through America. In the months that followed, their names would continue to appear together in headlines, speeches, and debates. Trump's promise to take care of New York became shorthand for his broader campaign to reassert control, while Mamdani's defiance became emblematic of a generation unwilling to be intimidated. By the time the next election cycle began, the echoes of that Miami speech still lingered. Trump's base remembered it as a call to arms. His opponents remembered it as a warning. Either way, it marked a moment when one man's words turned a city's local election into a symbol of America's ongoing struggle over power, identity, and the meaning of sovereignty itself.